The thing is, everybody has their scent, but I think the majority of us don't even know what our natural scent is because we've always tried to mask it. But we have a natural scent and you're not going to smell like Chanel No. 5 down there. So stop trying to make that happen.
A big welcome to you, Naa. Please start off by introducing yourself.
My name is Naa Adjeley. I am a herbalist based in the UK under the business of Trapanye, which means medicine mother in my language of Ga. And not only am I a herbalist, I'm also a cultural researcher as well. I'm really glad to be here. So this whole journey, actually, even my journey to herbalism started because I think about 15, 16, my grandmother, who was very much the one telling us the stories about our culture, left to go back to Ghana. And so I began a journey of understanding my culture, my heritage, what it meant. First, it was like, oh, our naming ceremonies, our harvest. And it just kind of got deeper, 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 deeper. And I'm still on it.
And in terms of herbalism, when is the first time you remember or recall seeing a herbalist at their craft?
When we say herbalist, I think the first time I had someone make medicine from plants, for example, was my grandmother. So my grandma was very much like she would observe all the signs and determine what was wrong with us at the time. And I always used to say she'll go to the kitchen and make some concoction that didn't usually taste nice and then have us drink it. So when it comes to herbalism, my first herbalist would have been my grandmother. And traditionally, like every family house had an idea of at least a few recipes to be able to give. And it was very much a family community type medicine. So I would say my grandmother. In terms of somebody qualified again, you go back home, it's usually the priestesses that you will go for those kind of herbal remedies and stuff. And that was when I was like, I would have been in my 20s at that time. But before then, it was my grandmother, my mom giving me any of the herbs, this medicine, or this is happening to you. Go get this, go pick this, go to the shop and get. And then it will make, I always say, concoction for
Yeah.
me to, yeah.
I love medicine or knowledge that's been handed down from the elders. And what's one of your kind of memorable experiences with your grandma and medicine making?
I'm laughing. So we have this thing in Ghana we call Odepun. And when people hear that, they will laugh because usually it's kind of like a white discharge when you are, especially when you're eating too much sugar. So it's associated with eating too much sugar. So obviously this is not something that we would show, but one of the things that my grandma would do or your parents would do is that when you put your undies and you don't wash it, they'll look at it to see like, okay, what's going on. And then she'll basically, my memory will be, she'll cuss us out first and tell us we're having too much sugar, give us something bitter to drink. And then also just, if we're eating sweet, just ban us from eating sweets at that time because, oh, nah, Odepu, you've got Odepu. So yeah, that's what I remember that. It's just that. So when I was saying looking at the signs, they will look how you smell. They will look at your clothing, the smell of your clothing, your undies and all that kind of stuff, just the kind of what's going on. And it was just standard practice. So yeah, Odepu was a common one that used to make me laugh.
What Odepu? Is that how do you say it?
Audible, yeah. When people hear it,
Odepu.
it's because it's a funny. It's not like a professional term. But any Ghanaian that has been around an elder would have heard that term before. So if I was to describe it more in modern terms, it will probably be like your gut bacteria is gone way off, your bacterial ecology is gone way off, and so you've got a tiny little bit of an infection that leads to that discharge. And yeah, so they will tell you that, like the sugar is too much.
It's too
Sort it out.
much. I was going to get into like women's health and all of that later on, and we will. But since you've mentioned discharge, I'm going to just piggyback off that. It's interesting that when you say your grandma looking at signs, how you smell, how you look, all of that stuff, discharge is one of the telltale signs that women get, and it gives us information as to what's going on. Sugar is the main one, especially when it comes to period pains and just inflammation in the body. And it's interesting in Western society how we have all these, like if you go to the feminine section in the supermarket, all of this stuff you spray on yourself. And you're like, no. You don't want to mask the issue. Like we want to deal with it. I've always find it so interesting. And especially when I see women who, whether privately women dealing with period pains or within the NHS setting, who have got all of these feminine perfume. And I'm like, no, 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 don't. You don't want that. Like, you want to know how you smell because that's giving you information and how to follow up and how to change it. You
Exactly.
know, you can't just spray over it. Like, if you had feces on your hand, you're not just going to spray deodorant over it. You're
Well,
going to deal
yeah,
with it.
exactly. And the thing is, everybody has their scent, but I think the majority of us don't even know what our natural scent is because we've always tried to mask it. But we have a natural scent, and you're not going to smell like Chanel No. 5 down there. So stop trying to make that happen. You have to get used to your own body scent so that even when it's your body slightly off, you're going to be able to tell that it's slightly off because people don't know that you can literally just use water. And if your diet's good, you're not going to have a problem. Just water. But all these feminine products, they're giving you 3/4 of the problems that you're facing because over a period of time, especially the tissue down there, it's really absorbent. You're taking it all in the most vulnerable, sensitive place that is closest to your reproductive and your digestive systems on a regular, like daily basis. Even the underwear we wear, like how often do we walk around the house without having some kind of underwear? How often do we just walk around free and we've got these tight knickers that I could talk for ages on this kind of thing. Like, yeah, it's just, I feel like we've created a whole culture that is just completely against what would naturally work for us. I've seen so many range of perfumes. One thing I've noticed is when you go down the feminine aisle, there's a very strong smell that comes out of it. Like I can tell when I'm in like a supermarket when I'm close to the feminine aisle because there's a scent. I don't remember that being there when I was growing up. It's like a recent phenomena that they're putting even stronger scents now. And what's that saying? And what's the impact of that? So yeah, I feel like people need to be connected a bit more to the body to know what do you naturally smell like. And can you smell when it might be slightly sweet, might be slightly sour? Can you tell the difference when your scent is changing just a little bit and how it's changing? And I don't think most of us investigate our bodies enough to know.
That is so key. In terms of herbalism for you, so obviously you've got stories from your grandmother. How did you then sort of segue into herbalism and know, okay, yes, this is the right path for me?
So I was in Ghana. So my grandma used to like constantly check and make sure that we were okay. Right. And so my grandma left when I was 15 and I think about 25. I kind of abandoned it because I felt like it's just like, oh, was grandma doing her thing and it's just what grandmothers do. And I went to Ghana and I got really ill, as in so ill I almost died.
Oh,
And when you
wow.
get to almost dying point, it was serious. My appendix actually ruptured while I was in Ghana. So when you are almost dying and you wake up and all your family are there, like, she's alive, because all the doctors are like, she's not going to make it. The question I then ask myself is, because I'd had some issues up until this point, and I knew there was something wrong with my digestion. My periods were hell. And the doctors were just literally either tranexamic acid or just say IBS, just deal with it. And now, because I didn't know enough about my body, I'd almost died. So then I had to ask myself a question. When was the last time I actually felt well? And the last time I felt well was when my grandma was making me all those concoctions. So then I was like, what was my grandma doing at that time that made me last feel well? And it was with the herbs. So then I was like, okay, I now need to do something to help me with my body and my health. And the last time I was well was when I was regularly giving these concoctions or vitamins and stuff. So that's what now led me onto the journey to now start studying herbalism.
How long did that road to recovery take?
It was months. It was the first few weeks were very difficult because I couldn't really eat that much. So I absolutely hated avocados. But because I was losing weight so quickly, basically had to eat like fatty stuff. So I was eating avocados and now I love avocados. I used to hate it before then. But Ghana avocados are very different to the ones that you find in the UK. So
Absolutely.
it took a few months. The first few weeks were actually, considering how the operation was, I was up and about within like maybe a week. When I came to the UK, in terms of me fully be able to run and do various bits and pieces, I think I would say it was probably like 3, 4 months.
One of my questions is going to be, how has herbalism changed your life? But I think you've just given a perfect example of that. In terms of recovery, what was there any sort of particular herbs that you drew close to or developed like a deep respect for during that process?
I think just to kind of go back to the previous question about how herbalism changed my life, I think one thing I felt when I basically woke up is I knew something was wrong. really did know something was wrong. And I'd gone to the doctors several times about what it was, but I didn't know enough about my own body and I didn't know what to do. And then it led me to me almost losing my life. So when I think about what herbalism has done for me, herbalism has empowered me. So now if something is wrong, I'm able to pick, okay, my gut's feeling this way, my microbes off, is it the gluten? Is it this? Maybe I need to, there could be potential leaky gut because I'm also feeling it in my joint. Now I'm seeing, I'm able to put two and two together. And now I'm like, okay, this is what I need to do next, or this is what I need to stop doing. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm absolutely perfect. Sometimes I know what to do and I don't do it. But the difference is when it comes to hit me upside the head, I know it's because you knew what you were supposed to do and you didn't do it. And this was the consequence. Whereas previously it was, I don't know what to do. I'm completely helpless. And the consequences are smacking me upside the head. So it's just that empowerment of knowing what to do when something is wrong. And if you decide not to listen, knowing that it was completely your fault, you could have done something too. And in terms of herbs, I think for me, it was food. So when I woke up from the operation, that's when I decided I was going to start to study herbalism. And I did a bit of research, and it was the next year that I was going to start the school. But something happened. I couldn't eat that much. And that time, like not soon, not like a few weeks after, I started my period and I didn't know I'd even started. It was the first time in a very long time that I didn't have any period pain throughout the whole thing. And so I equated, like even now, if I stuck my face throughout the whole month, my period be a madness. If beforehand I regulate, don't overeat, and I eat healthy, I have my fruits and veg, then my period will be much better. So it was then that made me realize, and in Ghana, everything's fresh. I couldn't eat that much, but I could fruits and veg. And when we say avocado, it's the neighbor's tree. When we say banana, or when we say palm, or when we say coconut, it's literally within walking distance within the vicinity. So as soon as I came out of the hospital, within a few, like I was eating fresh. And when we cook, we're cooking things picked fresh or picked in the 2 days, or that usually you go to the market that morning or the day before to get all the ingredients that you're going to cook, and you cook it at that point. So I was eating fresh foods. So for my periods to start, and then I didn't even know. And that for me was like
Wow.
possible. So for me, it was very much about food and what we were eating and how we're eating, because I also then came back, started eating normally, and the pain came back.
Isn't it
So
fascinating? For most of us here in the West, we just haven't drawn the connection between food and our health. If you went and put sand in your car, you wouldn't be surprised that it wasn't working well.
yeah,
You put the
yeah.
right fuel so that your car can function well. Why is it that we just expect to just put anything in our bodies, foreign objects, contraceptive pill, implant, injections, all of this stuff that with the body just does not recognize, it doesn't have an affinity with, and we are
Mhm.
actually surprised that we're having issues.
What I find interesting, especially when you speak with people, is I feel, this is my personal opinion, that there is a great marketing and communication scam going on about what is food, what is nourishment. And sometimes we're persistently told this is really good for you, and we don't find out till 2, 3 generations later that actually what was said 20 years ago that was good isn't good for you. I think herbalism, what also herbalism does is teaches you how to read the data, teaches you how to understand how things work. So when somebody is now presenting you with this new shiny product that has added vitamin C and added this and added that, will give you this and that, you're able to read between the lines as to what you're really eating. So sometimes I don't blame people, because the machinery that's passing on the messaging is really strong. Learning it in schools, when you're in hospital, there's the food they're giving you. And in your mind, you think people won't do that if they know that it's really well, it's kill you, it doesn't give you nourishment. They wouldn't do that. So I think also I feel like I have to appreciate that there is a machinery that's bringing this kind of messaging. And I always bear that in mind when I'm speaking to women, that I don't necessarily blame them for making the choices that they're making, because it is being presented as a golden stool or golden camel or whatever it is, that this is going to give you everything you need. But technically, it's doing the exact opposite. But I think people are,
Yeah, I agree on the food parts. When you go to your supermarket, like, and that's just where you assume food comes from. Of course, you buy it, you don't know things have been sprayed and tampered with and all of that. But my confusion comes with like the foreign stuff, the non-food, the medications that we're just perpetually on, the IUDs, the injections. Now it's pills to lose weight. It's just, we're doing all these things and thinking there will be zero consequences. That's
Mhm.
where I'm like, wow, like that's really interesting that, you know, like you said, we are slowly waking up, but at the same time, it's how do we expect the body to be on contraception for 10 years and just have
Yeah.
zero issues and then just come off it and we're like, why am I struggling to? And I think that has also kind of fed the IVF machine. You find, I'm finding anyway, the generation who just been on the contraception for years and years and years are now finding issues like in their 30s to give birth. You're having women in their
Yeah.
30s having IVF. Why is that?
Yeah.
You know?
I think so much has gone wrong historically to lead us to this moment. The idea about how women's bodies work wasn't really something that there was much research invested in.
Hmm.
Even the role of women in society and the appreciation for their bodies, and even something as natural as menstruation, in a lot of places seen as something really dirty and unclean. No one wants to talk about it. Stay away from me. And so that's kind of fueled that out. I don't want to smell like I'm on my period. I don't want anyone to smell any fishy smells because of the association of what a vagina might smell like. And I think that's really fueled this and the contraception. Most of the time, when you go and get the contraception, you're not going to be told that in 10 years' time, you might struggle to have a baby. They're not going to tell you that. You'll be lucky if they tell you that. But I know that seeing so many clients come in, and one of the first questions we ask them when they come and say they're struggling to have children or they're having a lot of drama during menopause is, how long did you spend on the pill? And then you will find that they were put on it because of some acne or they had one painful period and they were put on it at 15 and only came off it when they wanted to have children. But that was something they were taking on a regular basis, or even a foreign body they had throughout their formative years where they were still developing, only taking it out when they were ready to have children. And so, yeah, the education and the treatment of women and their bodies throughout history up until this point, and these injections are being fueled by the fact that they want to look a certain way and maintain certain things. But so there's loads of different factors that come into play in terms of how we as women feel about ourselves and our contribution to society. And all these products that are also now aimed at people who have that mentality. And it's doing, and also, do people know about the extent of it? We as herbalists, because we see so many clients, we have an idea of just how bad it is. But how often do women speak to each other when they, especially when they're unable to conceive? You're married. Society's like, within 2, 3 years of marriage, you should have a child, and you don't have a child. What's your husband going to think of you? Are you really a woman? How many women will speak to each other about that? So a lot of people probably don't even realize just how deep the issue goes because there hasn't been a space for really for us to talk about it.
Mm, That's really interesting. And just to piggyback off that, so I remember when I was studying herbalism, one of the case studies that I did was in fibroids.
Mhm.
And I remember I went down a rabbit hole, and one of the research that came up was hair relaxers and people just not associating what we put on our heads with what's growing or shouldn't be growing in our wombs. And I
Mhm.
thought that was so interesting. And so, of course, within the UK, there is a high rate of Black women who do have fibroids. Whereas, say, back home, I think it's very different where the food is a lot fresher and even yes they have women obviously who have relaxers, but I find the incidences of fibroids certainly at the time when I was researching anyway is much lower back home
Mhm.
than it is here in the UK. And I think there are
Mhm.
different factors that influence that. So yes, what we put on our bodies, the tornado of perfumes, deodorants, all of the things that seep into our bodies go down into our lymphatic systems. Then you've got the chemical lies that have been seeped into our like brain or skull. It's going in there as well. And then you have obviously the makeup that all of these stuff, the nails, your nails, all of that. No one really thinks of your nail beds. What's going in there? When was the last time you actually saw your nail bed? What does it even look like?
I used to do my nails until I found out I was allergic. I was allergic to them. So I was actually allergic to the acrylic. I had like big panda eyes. So like
Wow.
people are aware a little bit because with relaxers, they will tell you that when you're pregnant, don't relax your hair. So that we should give people the clue. And even back home, just to go back on your point, the incidences of fibroids and endometriosis, well, in Ghana specifically, is increasing. But do you know what one of the most popular foods in Ghana is? Despite having a lot of fresh foods, do you know what one of the most popular foods in Ghana is?
What?
Indomie.
Wow.
So things are changing in the sense that people are chasing the Western lifestyle off a cliff. And so the things that our grandmas did. So for example, when I had like a scent that my grandma didn't like, she used to give, especially if it was really bad, she'll give me lemon, tell me to walk around the house. Then I go and bath, and then I'll rub the lemon again. The smell was gone, and I'll be back. And then if I have to bath again, so all these things are considered, oh, it's too bush. I'm going to go and get the most expensive deodorant that means I won't sweat for 48 hours. 48 hours. I'm like, wait,
Longer, stronger protection.
no, I think one's even 72 hours. 3 days. Oh no, like you're okay. Like, so if your body's trying to release anything and your boobs are literally right here and you're just preventing all that sweat from going anywhere. So I'm just like, and even during makeup. So me, I've never gone to learn all about the concealers and stuff. I'm not gonna lie, I do like makeup, but this is as far as I go, and some red lipstick. But now they've got things that you put on your skin to prevent you from sweating, and then there's a setting spray. I remember I got my makeup done, and it was this. Some new things had come that now the things that they use for performances and theatre production is now what's available to the everyday. When I tried to take that makeup off on the end of the day, I felt like I needed the carpet cleaner on my face. It's so hard. And I'd said, please don't use those products on my face again. It was so hard for me to take it off.
Wow.
Soap and water, I had to get black soap. It wasn't normal water or normal cleanser. I had to
Wow.
get black soap, break that thing down. And so it's just there has to be a way that in our growing up, like we do back home, there's education from day dot. There's always an elder in the house, or there's always like somebody in the house who's responsible for the health of the people from that family house. You have your puberty rights. So there has to be someone to give us that knowledge. Otherwise, how are we going to know? How are people going to know these things, these 50 million products you're putting on your face is seeping into your skin? The relaxer that you're putting in your head every single month. But if we're going to say to people, stop relaxing your hair, we also have to teach them how to look after their hair, how to make their own creams, how to make their own body creams. These are things that if people grow up naturally knowing, then they will do it. Otherwise, they're going to be left to the corporations who are going to determine what they should use. And your health isn't the primary goal. It's how much you make. And so
Absolutely.
if your health, if profit is being chosen over your health, just know that not many things are going to be there that's going to help nourish you and build you and make you the best that you can be. So yeah, it's bad.
And just to go back to the point on fibroids and why I brought it up. So I think also we have an element of, and research as well is showing there's an element of lack of vitamin D. So you have
Mhm.
women here, and the increasing rates of vitamin D amongst Black women here also point to the lack of vitamin D. So obviously there's not as much sun here as we would get back home. And with vitamin D, I know like back home, obviously you got the element of the sun. They're more active as well. So even if
Yes.
they're eating meats or things that have estrogen or animal hormones inside, I think it's a lot easier for their system and for their liver to process those hormones and eliminate it and not hold on to it and store it and then kind of be reabsorbed back into the system as it would do if they are here in this country where you're not really getting as much sun. Obviously, with darker skin as well, we have that barrier. So if you were in hotter countries, it does help to prevent from sunburn. But if you're in a
Mm.
country that doesn't really get much sun, then you're at a deficit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So when you have that and we have sedentary jobs where we can be sat at a desk 8 hours a day. We're not really moving around much. Sometimes in the winter, we start when it's dark. We go home when it's dark. Like where is the vitamin D?
Mm.
Um, I'm finding it's really important that women understand that what we're eating, what we're holding on to, how our liver is processing things definitely has an impact. I will hear things like, oh no, it's normal. Everybody gets fibroids. It's almost like it's a rite of passage.
Yeah, so just to say, so when my appendix ruptured and they had to do the operation, one of the things they found was some large fibroids. So I have personal experience with them, but one of the things that I found worked really well, and they weren't growing like they were on cocaine, was I exercised like 4, 5 times a week. Sugar was the unlowered sugar, and when the sugar goes up, you feel it. When the sugar comes back down, like you can feel it. Also, stress, the stress that people have on their lives and the daily things that we have to put up with in this country, and we have less of community here. Back home, like if something happens, like there's several people that will help you out, or you can go to, and who will even come and visit your house. When I was growing up, somebody was at my house almost every weekend. Some auntie and uncle was at my house, or I was at their house. But now I'm seeing that doesn't happen as much anymore. So that stress, community, that fight or flight that could be caused by your annoying family member or boss at work. Again, like I mentioned with the diet, the vitamin D, I think also people understand it. It's also a hormone. So when people see it as like this thing that you could just pop a pill, but the way that it communicates and the stuff that it could do for your body and could do for you, just appreciating that. So all of these things like shape what you could do with fibroids. But for me, the biggest thing was when I was exercising and losing weight, and when my diet wasn't full of the carbs and the sweets and the plantain. Sorry to say about the plantain, but I love my plantain.
I love
And
plantains.
but it's one thing I would say about fibroids is that it's a forever thing. It's not you can do it, wait for it to go down, and then go back to how you were. It is a forever change in lifestyle, and also making sure you're going to do a number two every single day. I'm actually quite shocked at how many people don't go poo every day, like 4 or 5 days. Like, how does your stomach?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Ooh, what's the story?
No,
Tell
I
me.
was
How many days?
gonna wait for you to finish.
How many
No,
days?
listen, I recently looked after a woman who was carrying
Mhm,
twins, 30-year-old woman, first baby's carrying twins.
mhm.
She goes to toilet before pregnancy, she would go once or twice a month. Not sure how she's still alive, to be quite honest with you. And then during pregnancy, because the system does relax a little bit, so it got a little bit better, she would go sort of once every 2 to 3 weeks. And do you know what's so funny is that, and this is what I realized, and it's really sad to say, with a lot of the people who depend on the healthcare system, there's a lot of
Mhm.
outsourcing that happens. It's I'm gonna show
Yeah.
up. You guys are just gonna do what you need to do. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
back home with my babies eventually. Like the lack of self-responsibility is just, it's
Yeah.
shocking. So this is someone actually, I saw her almost every week for like a period of 6, 7 weeks. Like she was coming regularly because she was carrying twins. So she was coming in for regular, what you call CTG, where you're checking, it's a monitor that checks the fetal heart rate. So
Mhm.
she was having weekly checkups, and so we were talking about diet, and she kept complaining of like pain in her stomach. So of course I started asking about nutrition, which is not really something that's like routinely covered. It might be glossed over. Oh, you eating while you sleeping. Well, obviously being her, we go in, we want to know about
Good.
that poop. So I was asking about her diet and how often are you going to toilet? She said, oh, once every sort of like 2 to 3 weeks. At least by the third week I would have gone. I said, wait, how long has this been going on for? She said, oh, since I can remember, since my mom was that way. She says she's not as bad as me, but since I was a child, it's been that way. And I said, and the thing, you're carrying two lives. You're carrying two babies. Where is the room? And so I said, well, what type of foods do you eat? She said, oh, just normal healthy foods. Pasta, rice, fish, meat, like the usual, like
Oh, I
carby
made
foods.
the vegetables and did that
And
appear?
do you eat any fish? She's like, yeah, yeah. Like sometimes, yeah, there's some veg there. I think, really? And so I started talking to her about fiber-rich foods. I mentioned magnesium. I said, this is going to be an excellent way, especially in the condition, just being pregnant and the fact that you have this condition where you're not opening your bowels every day. I think magnesium will really be a tool for you. I mean, if you were in that position, someone gave you something that will like really help, would you not go out and get it like the same day? I saw her again, like I follow up, we had a follow up the next week. And I said, how are the bowel movements? She's like, yeah, I have gone since I last saw you. And I said, did you get any of like the magnesium, the fiber? She's like, no, not really. I'm just kind of, and I said, oh, do you want to? Or she said, I'm just kind of used to it now. Just kind of, my doctor's going to prescribe something when I go to the GP, but I'm just going to carry on as is. And I just thought, wow, okay. It seems I obviously care too much. Let me stop.
I've heard that a lot. I'm gonna go to my doctor, and I think I've gotten to the point that there's so many people that would hear you that I can
You're not
focus on.
listening.
I just said,
Yeah.
yeah, it's for them. It's just like, well, I'm pregnant, everything's fine, other than a little stomach pain, I'm good. It will be because the other thing is as well, you might be okay now, but what about in 20 years' time? Because some of
Yeah.
the diseases that show themselves up in your old age actually started in your 30s, in your 40s.
Absolutely.
And you thought, at this time, I can cope with it. But the damage was being done at that point. And it's not going to be until you're struggling to get out of your seat at 60 that you probably end up thinking, I should have probably taken that advice. Or you got the autoimmune conditions or the complete dysregulation. You can't eat anything without there being excruciating pain. And it probably started from this because I would love to see what she produces when she goes at 3 weeks. Like, does she block the loo? Because I'll be like, how much is
I
coming out?
know.
Does it come out? Or is there always something there? And what is it doing to her gut lining? Like, so many questions I'll
And
be
the
asking.
sad part is she gave birth to like two little girls, and it's just that's gonna replicate itself. It's gonna be the same habits because clearly this is it's a generational thing, but I wouldn't say it's genetic. Obviously they adopted the same eating habits, and there's clearly
Yeah.
maybe something just within their body that doesn't process certain foods well.
Mhm.
And yeah, if you don't fix that, you're going to then pass it down, like, which is the really sad part.
Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned a short while back about puberty rights. Can you talk a
Mhm.
little bit more about that?
So puberty rites are a rite that's usually done for, it used to be done for young men, but now it's mainly focused on young women to learn about their bodies, basically how to wash themselves, even sex, good food to eat. But what I found really interesting is that puberty rights is demonized, usually demonized in the West, and that's partly because of the nakedness of the girls. So they say like it's a really unnecessary rite and it's really demeaning, etc., etc. But when you look at the history of the rite itself, it used to take years. Now, what other institution teaches people like in from like when they start their periods, which back in the day probably would have been like 14, 15 for several years, say 4 or 5 years, teaches them about their bodies, teaches them how to contribute to society, become meaningful members of society, teaches them how to cook. During that time, the diet's also restricted. What they might wear would be also restricted. So they're not focusing on night. They wear a uniform. When you think it's actually like a form of college or secondary school, because the people at the time, so there was one account I was reading which made me laugh. So the Dangme people, so the group I'm from the Gadangme, so it's made up of the Ga and the Dangme people. The Dangme people used to do their rites on a mountain. And the missionaries were struggling a little bit because what will happen is the girls would disappear for several years and come back and be really hard to brainwash because at that point they knew who they were. And so what they did is they said a few things about what was really going on up in the mountain, then banned the rites. And now what's happened is they now installed a Christian king and then changed the rites so that instead of it being years, it was symbolic for a few days. Now I've been to a few of them and seen some of the idea that it was what they've been taught is still about their bodies and stuff. But people are now associating it with bush culture, and so for me, the puberty rites is so much more than that, because if a woman learns to understand about her body, learns about sex, learns about how to contribute to society, surely if there's anything wrong with their periods, they will know really quickly that something's up and what to do about it. If there's anything wrong, they've just had sexual intercourse and then maybe their pH is off, they can understand what that might be and what they can do about it. This is very important knowledge that, as a result of colonization, has been minimized to this ceremonial thing that now what you'll find sometimes is people are bringing their 3, 4-year-old children just to say that, oh, as long as I can say my child has done the right, that's fine. But that's not what it was intentionally for. So even some of the work that I'm looking at is potentially doing like some modules during these times, because it's the only time that you're going to get girls within a particular age all returning to their family houses to have this educational period. And it was one of the times I also learned about the importance of food, because we always talk about African food. And in our minds, you're talking about jollof rice, we're talking about fried rice. I learned that jollof rice and fried rice are actually considered junk food. So that was Africa's KFC and McDonald's. When you do your puberty rites, you eat like old school traditional foods with the traditional millet and all these grains. And I remember like asking about what some of these foods are. Now, I've been a Ghanaian woman my whole life. I didn't recognize any of what they were eating. So even what we consider to be a traditional African diet has really been changed and adapted in a way that we are probably doing ourselves a disservice in terms of the variety, the different types of vegetables and the different types of grain, but also the different types of preparations like the fermentation that we now have removed for the quick fast foods of jollof rice, fried rice, rice and stew, and fufu. With the fufu is like big 50 million different types of meat. You know what I mean? To kind of yeah. Yeah. Listen, for me, I can't do it. And then then we've got this big heavy ball of cake here, and it will be sitting on the stomach. Like people will say, like if I've eaten African food and I'm falling asleep, then the food is good. In my mind, I'm like, look, that food was so heavy, your body's struggling to keep you awake and digest your food. That's not a good thing. Even our idea of food, this is all stuff that they would have taught you in your puberty rights, but because of its demonization, it's starting to wash away. But I learned so much about like literally for me to hear foods that I've never heard of, and I've literally grown up on Ghanaian food. I was really shocked. I was like, why do you only have it during this time? But what they were saying is when you're marking really important transitions like puberty, or also when you're married, the diet changes to prepare you for that stage in life. Even the attire that you wear, self-care becomes very important. So all of these things are things that we can learn whenever we're marking transitions. And transitions could be changing jobs, it could be changing circumstances. The diet, the self-care, all of these things become really important.
Wow, that is so beautiful. And these rites, is it only like within set cultures? Like, is it kind of more like tribal, or can someone internationally come and do it as well?
So every family house, puberty rites are done throughout the whole of Africa. What tends to happen, so for me, the puberty rites for my family house is called Ashi. So when I would reach of age, I would go to the family house in Ghana and have my Ashi done there. For certain Dangbe places, their family houses will come together, or the Dang people will come at set times of the year, and they're called Dipo. So I know of people who have gone to do their puberty rites in certain family houses, but then it's usually done. You would go usually to your family house or to your community, because the diet they would give you, the rules and the teachings are also specific to you. So, for example, if you come from a family house that's very well known for periods that are absolutely hectic, then they will probably give you advice that will help when this happens with your period, and do this, do this. A lot of the knowledge, the teachers are like the elderly women of that community. So they have an idea of what's going on. Imagine my grandma being one of those elders. She's been looking through children's knickers for how many years? She knows what the issues are and what to do. So when she's teaching those young people, she's teaching them, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do, this is a sign of this is a sign of that, this is how you cook your own food. Right now, I think one of the biggest problems we have, no one knows how to cook. So you're now relying on what corporations, whose main aim is profit, not your health, are giving you. And now we don't even have processed, we have ultra processed. Actually, I should show you something. Give me 1 second. I'm going to.
Sure.
This is a fillet fish that I bought in February 2023.
Oh my gosh.
And we are, what year is it now? So, or 2024.
2025.
It's a year and a half. It's 2024. February 2024, I bought this. Is this normal?
Wow.
And you can still see, can you see the cheese? Oh, wait, let me see where I can find it. The cheese is still perfectly straight,
Wow.
lovely, no mold, it doesn't smell, nothing. This is what we're giving to children. This is what's being marketed to children. And like, I'm loving it. This is it. It's been sitting on my bookshelf since
That's
February.
crazy.
Yeah.
So for those of
So
you who are just audio listeners only, you need to go onto YouTube and see what Naj is showing because it's basically what, a year old fish burger that still looks pristine. So imagine what's going on in our gut. That's
our gut
insane.
is fussing us out when he eats every time he eats one of that. And I also had a salad, which is majority water. It just dried out. So I'm gonna do that again because I think that became a real interest because people were like, usually when you buy salad, it doesn't last that long, but this thing just dried out
Mm.
and it was fine. So yeah, there's a lot. I think these rights are extremely important. And if we could bring something similar in some form, because girls need to know about their bodies, what vaginas even look like. It's really interesting.
Mm.
Don't even know what their own body parts look like, how to wash it, why you don't need soap. What I mean, why your diet's important, why your periods might be painful. Like I know my niece, she's me and her are really close, but I want her to tell me everything about her period. So anything like back in the day, I'll be shy about, oh, my period's really, I'll even try to hide it. When I started, I tried to hide it. So having this where you have that relationship with family members, so when anything goes wrong, they're able to tell you and you're able to do something about it very quickly. And so that's the
Mm.
relationship that I build with my nieces because the rate of fibroids, the rate of endometriosis, I have 3 nieces. With that rate, that means at least 2 of them are going to have some kind of issues going forward.
Mm.
That's not going to be on my watch. I will not allow that to happen. So it's
Mm.
important patience.
Absolutely. That is so vital. And when you, just to go back again, talking about the herbalism and sort of that grassroots that you were familiar with from your grandma's influence, and in studying herbalism in the UK, what would you say from your research and from using the herbs? What are the key differences between African herbalism and Western?
So Western herbalism, I feel, seems to focus on giving you herbs when you're sick. Whereas I think African herbalism focuses on giving you herbs even when you're well. So a lot of these traditions and cultures that people seem to think are just simply forms of entertainment are prevention measures. The soups that we would eat and the food that we would eat are prevention measures. So when we're talking about herbalism, we're not just talking about, okay, if you have this disease, this is the herbs that we'll take. If you have this is the herbs you will take. It's you should take a lot of bitters because you need to be going to your bathroom a lot of times. And we love our bitters. It seems to be part of our regular diet. My dad always used to have this bottle with all the wooden bits at the bottom that he used to drink just to, because going to the bathroom was extremely important. And that was part of our everyday. You didn't wait till you got ill. In fact, you being ill was you didn't go to the toilet after 2 days, or you're not feeling as energetic after a couple of days. It wouldn't have got to the point where you're there and you've got a disease that now has a long name. It's part of our everyday. So we just finished a ban on drumming and noisemaking. That's a period of silence for almost a month. That's also a medicine. Now, most people will be like, oh, yeah, we just can't do nothing for a month. But that's a part of a healing process to make sure that you won't get any illness that's as a result of overwhelm and stress. We're now understanding the impact of stress. Imagine that at least for 1 month of the year, you have an excuse not to do anything. What that
Mm.
can do to an overwhelmed body. Do you know what you can do in a month? How de-stressed you can do in a month? And also, what I find is certain things that you're wired to do as a result of 11 months living on the edge, you can crack them. So I know when I first started, I logged onto Facebook before because I come off social media. So I logged onto Facebook like three times without, or it was just, if I'm a little bit bored or I'm doing something and I want to do 2 things at the same time, I had to delete the app. Otherwise I'll just keep going on it. So it was just like all these things that you're doing it on autopilot and you're doing that for months, just running on autopilot, not feeding and nourishing yourself. you're going to find out you're going to get diseases. So my main learning was what we do in our everyday was the medicine.
Mm.
Go to a specialist. So whereas here you will go to the doctors for anything, and then you get referred to the hospital specialist. Whereas here it was every day your herbal medicines, your herbal healing, your food, everything about your life was healing. And then you will go to a specialist if despite all that, something serious had happened. So that was my main differentiation. And I tend to try and live by the African element just so that I don't
Mm.
first place.
Mm, mm. And what type of, I guess, daily, for lack of a better word, rituals do you abide by in your personal day-to-day life?
So one of the things that I've been doing is eating when I'm hungry. So usually it's been you have to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then you have snacks. Whereas I have been teaching myself or to eat when I actually feel hungry and not when I'm bored. Like, so I have to ask myself, are you hungry? And then when I'm doing it, like, do that. But also eating my herbs as well. So, for example, we have this stew. Like, most people have like some kind of contemporary spinach based cassava stew, but you can replace that with stinging nettle. And then
Mm.
you can go and you can add some dandelion. So when I'm making a stew, like you have the set way that you make it, but what's stopping you from adding the fresh dandelion leaf that's in your garden? I love ginger. So sometimes I will make a stew and it's not always about the taste. It's about what I need in that moment.
Mhm.
So I could sometimes, like if I'm feeling really cold and circulation's off and I've got signs that my circulation's off, I will pluck it with alligator pepper and ginger until it's burning my throat. Now I might not give it to everybody, but that's what I need in that moment. So that's the
Mhm.
medicine I make in the form of my soup or my stew. So I've got certain ingredients and might put more or less depending on how I'm feeling that day. Not because I'm sick, I'm just feeling like I noticed when I was walking around the floor today barefooted, I was ridiculously cold. I had to rush and put my shoes on. I noticed that, okay, circulation. Or I noticed today that I was going to the toilet and I was a bit too like constipated, or I didn't go in the morning. Usually, if I don't go in the morning, it's because I haven't drunk enough water that morning. If I don't do it, I'll go and drink some water. So this is the way that I kind of incorporate it in my everyday. Like drink the water, add more of the seasoning in your food. Go for a walk. I'm trying to do my 10,000 steps a day. So stuff. And so even with the ban on drumming, I've switched off all the notifications on my phone. And that is absolutely amazing. I don't know why I didn't do that earlier. And not listening to like music because one of the things I realized I fill the gaps in my day with social media and music. So it seems like I don't know how to sit in silence because it was really frustrating me when I was like, what do I do with myself? Like it didn't come to my head to go read a book because I thought that's too boring. So then this ban on drumming helped me just kind of, you need to reset that because that's not good. Like you constantly need that short kick story to constantly overstimulate you. Otherwise you just feel helpless. You don't know what to do. So yeah, that's why. So those are some of the examples of some of the things that I would do on a regular basis.
Wow, the ban on drumming, is this the first time you've observed it, or is it yearly? Do
No,
you do you do
yearly. So it happens every single year, depending on what area of Ghana you live in. And so I've observed it for the past 5, 6 years. So
Okay.
again, I think when people think of these traditions, a lot of the time it's so I start from the premise of my ancestors were not stupid. And so if they did something because the health of the community was in their benefit, there was a reason why they did it. So if they're doing something, I'm not automatically thinking this is demonic and this is savagery. I'm thinking, why did they do it? And the benefit of learning herbalism is that you're now starting to learn about research. I'm able to research and read stuff. So now I'm seeing the benefit of silence. Silence, noise kills. What does that did I read? Like, well, like the noise in Europe is responsible for like 12,000 early deaths. That's a lot.
Wow.
We don't know if I put now a 14-year-old in a room by themselves with nothing, they will probably be hitting their heads off with the ceiling within an hour. I can't do this, I'm this, I'm this, and this. But being able to be still and allow the body to rest and allow the body to go into rest and digest zone is important. Most of us are running literally on fight, flight, and freeze. 24/7. We're always looking for some form of stimulation. And if we don't have that stimulation, you can't function. That in itself is an illness. And that in itself will lead to several other illnesses because your body is not even operating in an optimum way. And then when you've got the onslaught of the toxins and stuff, you're buggered. I think what's going to happen in the next few generations, if we keep going down the trajectory, and I'm already seeing it, is diseases that we used to associate with like 70, 80-year-olds, I'm now starting to see in 40, 50-year-olds. And I think the next generations, we're going to start seeing them in like 20, 30-year-olds. So,
Absolutely.
I think that the silence, the still, removing this, it'll be very interesting to see how you behave when you remove all your filler distractions. Oh, like at one point, the first day, especially, I logged onto Instagram, was about to comment before I realized I'm not even supposed to be on social media. It was automatic. I watched this video, it picked me off, and I was about to comment. I was like, oh, and I had to come back. But just that whole action, that's like what, a minute of doing something without realizing that you're not supposed. It's nuts. You learn so much about these distractions.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with the silence part as well. Like there are times when I'm able to just like normally I have music playing like in the home, especially if I've had a long day, I'll come home and it would be some sort of maybe like classical or piano. And it's just nice to just have that in the background. But sometimes it's just nice to just have nothing, just to hear like nature outside or hear the birds. It's just nice. Or sometimes I'll go for a walk and I will feel like I need to listen to something. And sometimes
Mm.
like, well, no, let me just listen to what's around me. Let me listen to the birds and the trees and just the leaves rustling, like all of that stuff. It heightens your senses. But yeah, our phones have become such a crutch. Like we can't really function without them. This whole ADHD, like I think a lot of that has to do with the overstimulation, where we constantly then need something. We need something to distract us. We have fidget toys. We need our fidget toys. What is that? How are we functioning 40 years ago? What is going on?
Right. Listen, I remember we used to play out and things were a lot slower. So I have a friend who's a professor, and she has her child watch cartoons from the 80s because the colors are duller and the scenes don't change as often. But now the scenes are changing every 2 seconds, like millisecond. The noises, sometimes I'm listening and it's even the noise in my brain is like high pitched sounds. The
Yeah.
colors are super bright. And this is what you're giving to your babies. By the time they get old, they're not going to be able to pay attention to nothing. So I just find it so interesting. There was even one time I was thinking that back in the day, I knew at least 10 people's phone numbers offhand. I don't know. I think my house number, and that's because I've had it since that time. But I don't know any other number offhand other than my own and my house number. So even as a person, the way we retain our knowledge and we exercise our memory, we're not doing that anymore. I don't remember. So I was like, if something was to happen to me and no one picked up the house phone, I'd be bucketed. If I lost my phone, I'm gone because I don't know nobody's number. But naturally, back in the day, we used to know at least several people.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So even now, our brains are not being exercised because we're using just technology. But the other thing as well that I've decided to do is have a separate alarm clock, because using your phone as an alarm, I think is one, the noise that it wakes you up with. Like I was getting startled with the I was like, no, can't do this. But then also, if your phone's your alarm clock, you pick up the first thing you do when you pick it up to put it off is you automatically panic.
Yeah.
So you can go somewhere else and you actually use an alarm clock. And an alarm clock has technically become redundant now, hasn't it? But it's actually a very good thing.
Wow. To go back to your point on menstruation, so when you're looking after clients who have reproductive issues or period pains, PMS, fibroids, what are the core ways, techniques, tips that you use in addressing those issues?
Oh gosh. Diet, drink water. You'd be surprised that and when I say water, I don't think like some people think that it's any liquid. No, it's not Lucozade. It's not the Red Bull. It's water. And at most, herbal tea, preferably the actual leaves, because some of these other herbal products that I see with herbs in it have a load of rubbish. Drink as your water when you're thirsty. A lot of people don't actually drink enough. when it comes to diet, several fruits and veg. And what because my friend did this to me once because I was a bit of a sweet tooth and it worked very well. Like eat your vegetables first and then eat your main meal.
Mhm.
'Cause then you won't eat as much because you'll be fuller quicker. And then you might realize that the hunger you felt you had for the chocolate croissants with aspartame you put all over it wasn't actually that. Because by the time you finish eating the vegetables and a big plate of vegetables, you don't even feel like you need that. They always say have your vegetables first, have a range of vegetables. Usually we have the same, was it lettuce, tomatoes, and cucumber.
Mm. Mm.
So many other vegetables than that. And I think one of the things that I learned as well, growing my own food, is vegetables that like, there's so many different types of tomatoes, different colors, different types of carrots. There's veg, good King Henry. I never heard till I started growing my own food. All of these heirloom like vegetables that were people were eating a lot of. So I like to try as much as you can, try and range as much to have a range. So the diet is very important. And also the clean 15. I think it's clean 15 and dirty dozen. Have you?
Mhm.
Yeah. Make it organic, but where you can't get organic, focus on getting the dirty dozen in organic and then washing it off with like you could put some white vinegar mixed with water to get as much as pesticides off as possible.
Mhm.
And then the other thing that I would always say that I find works really well in terms of and what a lot of people come in, people are facing stress and they think it's normal to just keep the stress on their heads. Like there hasn't been a client that I've ever spoken to that didn't have stress that made me raise eyebrows that they thought was normal, but they keep it in. So I always say that at least once a week, go and find something that you enjoy. Go to the movies, go treat yourself. If you can, if it's really deep, go get some therapy. Find some time for yourself where you're almost forcing yourself to go rest and digest. So I find that's also important. Movement. We're not moving enough in any way, shape, or form. And then there is making your own products. Everything that comes from the mainstream, there's always some rubbish in it. And a lot of my clients are black, so I teach them how to make their own body creams using shea butter. Shea butter and olive oil is like the basics. If you want to add water, there's a way to do that as well. But shea butter with olive oil to make it much softer, straight, don't need to add anything else. You could also use, if you've got the skin that could take it, black soap is also very natural. You could use the black soap. What else is there? So the creams, what they brush their teeth with, the hair creams, you can make your own hair cream. Again, the shea butter. In my view is if you can't eat it, then why is it not going in your body? We can use shea butter for cooking. We use olive oil for cooking. In worst case scenario, go to Tesco, buy olive oil. You can use that as a body cream. Easy. You can even use it as a hair cream. I use olive oil. When my hair
Mhm.
cream it takes a while for me to kind of make the hair creams. So you can go and put some olive oil and use that to cream your hair. So all of that kind of stuff is teaching them about the product. Lemon for the armpits. Worst case scenario, you go and get a natural deodorant. But it's, for example, the lemon is not working. So I always ask them also to read the signs because if you really stink, then that's something internal. That's what you're putting in your body and
Mhm.
it's in
Mhm.
itself. If the lemon is not working and the natural deodorants are not working, then we need to work on your diet. We need to work on how much water you're drinking and also movement. So go to the sauna as well to pamper yourself, to kind of spoil yourself. So those are I think once you're done with your diet, you're drinking, you're moving, you're getting outside in the sun, or when it comes to winter, especially when it's really dark, go out, go on holiday, book a holiday then when it's like hours of sunlight in the day, or force yourself to go outside and not completely covered up so you get a tiny little
Mhm.
bit, or supplement. For most of us that might not be able to afford, we have to supplement.
Mhm.
Those are once you get those things in place, then I think most of them will see a major difference. The diet, I think, is the main reason, and making sure. And then when I say like, how do it go really well? When you eat your food, it's not feeling tired. If your food, what you're eating, because some people as well, I find might have some gut issues as a result of what they've been eating. So certain things that you might give them will make them really tired, then come off that. So gluten, for example,
Mhm.
is a common, sometimes dairy as well. So if you're eating and it's making you bloated, it's making you feel really uncomfortable, or you need to nap afterwards, something's in there that your body don't like at the moment. You might end up liking it later, but at least for now, remove it from your diet. So yeah, those are the things that I would say. meat mostly when I'm speaking to my clients that we basically
Mm-hmm.
discuss it and then come in later.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What is the ideal diet for you?
For me, it's more keto-y, as in I find for me what works really well is, so there was two diets I went on that worked really well actually. I was vegan for a period of time, right? And I found I didn't smell as much. I didn't know poos didn't have to stink. And like literally, I didn't even have to apply deodorant. I think deodorant was like once a week because the scent didn't come out. But what that taught me, by vegan, I don't mean the chemicals that they've grown in a lab and now have turned into a meat burger. I mean eating the actual tomatoes and the veg and the carrot and making it into stew. Is that having predominantly plants is helpful. So I'm not saying to people go vegan. I'm saying that like let 90 or 80% of your diet be plants. And then if you're going to have meat, it doesn't have to be every single day. So that's what works best for me. The sugar as well. So me and gluten don't seem to be friends. And a lot of people that I know, gluten doesn't seem to help with them. And I've always been lactose intolerant, so I can't eat dairy anyway. So that's the diet. Like proper, you can do so much with vegetables, so much with vegetables. Like I remember my dad, because my dad is someone that when you're making him food, he will tell you when you've made rubbish. And so I made a purple cabbage fufu, which is like purple cabbage, you kind of blended and added a bit of water, add a bit of cinnamon, so you mix it and it gives it that fufu consistency. And he had his soup. He was fine. I said, oh, it's nice. You can't tell the difference. So you can have that. And then when I say meat, because we do it so much in our stew. Like one person's bowl, there'll be cow foot, cow intestines, there's so many, and then chicken, and then fish, all in one bowl. That's too much. I feel like if you're like one, and then lots of vegetables is enough. So that's the diet that I find really well. But you know, you could have obviously you have some carbs, but I don't know if you've seen the bowl of fufu. Like the bowl will be this big, and the fufu will take up 3 quarters. I find it's like have a small bowl, a small bit of fufu, and the majority of it would be soup that's primarily made from vegetables. And there's like one piece of meat in 50 million types. Because, yeah, you block up your gut and then you will see what period pain is then.
It's funny
So,
you
yeah.
mentioned about the not smelling. So May 2 years ago, I wanted to see what it was like not eating meat for the spring. And then August came round. So it'd been 3, 4 months and I kind of like it. My periods got even better ever since like doing like health work, all of that. My periods were very manageable. I'm happy with them. But then when I wasn't eating meat, I then went back to what I originally was when I was in my sort of like teens, early 20s, which was the 28-day cycle, which I really like. I found like on the meat, it was sort of like 25, 26 day. And ideally, I did want to extend it. And
Mhm.
even I was eating healthy organic meat. I wasn't eating meat every day. So at the end of August, I found that my periods are now every 28 days. So I was okay, let me go another 3 months, see how it goes. So I didn't kind of put pressure on myself. I'm going to stop eating meat and that's that. I just wanted to trial it and see how it went. And I found that I wasn't using deodorant as much. I think initially when I first came off meat, my body was kind of like detoxing.
Yes, yeah.
So when I was trying to see, like we were saying in the start of the conversation, what you naturally smell like, I was like, okay, I kind of do smell. And then I think as my body started to just kind of I'd let most of it out, I found I'd be running around labor ward, 12-hour shifts, no deodorant. At the end of the shift, like I might be feeling a bit kind of sweaty and like, okay, like I need to go home and wash now. But it was interesting the drastic difference between like
Yeah.
needing to use deodorant and like being actually able to literally do 10, 12,000 steps and not until I'm going home realize, okay, I'm getting kind of sweaty now. It's a good thing I'm going home. So as a midwife and herbalist, people are always asking me, what herbs can I use for pregnancy? What herbs to even get pregnant in the first place? What herbs for breastfeeding? All of that. What kind of tips, herbs, lifestyle advice would you give to women who are expecting or currently pregnant now?
I would always say that you have to look at the foundation, right? You are growing a whole entity in your body and it requires so much of you. And so nutrition is important. It is about like good quality nutrition. So when you're making your foods, yes, you have your cravings, but also look at what nutrition you have. Because I remember like when I was doing my studies, when you pick a herb for particular medicinals and so on, and they will say, why did you pick this? And I remember that if we added nettle to a tincture and we use the word, oh, it's nutritious, they'll be like, but it's only nutritious if you eat it. So I always had it in my head that there's certain things that you can actually eat. You could sprinkle a little bit of calendula on your salad. You could add nettle to your stew. So some of these things you can actually eat. So I think focus on nourishing yourself with good quality nutrition. I would also say like there's certain vitamins that I would always, so one of the things that I always have is magnesium and also omega-3. It's about good quality nutrition, always about good quality nutrition. If you didn't spoil yourself with food, you should spoil yourself with food now. You are doing something epic in terms of the human body, especially those who are also prepping for pregnancy. Like you want the good quality egg. And so that's going to take roughly, we'll say about 3 months to prepare for that good quality egg. So that egg that is going to be fertilized, it took a few months to get to that point. So you need to make sure that you've given it the best of materials. And one of the things that I really love is cruciferous vegetables, the broccoli. And the thing is, I thought they taste like rubbish, but I think it's just how you season them. And sometimes you've also got to get used to the taste. I find
Mm.
growing it itself, the taste is much better. It's like the lavender essential oils. I used to hate the smell of it, but when I got the real lavender, then I was like, okay, I like the smell. Sometimes when you see the real thing that you grow and you taste it, your body is naturally like, oh, this is what I want. Give me more. You find out that you're craving it. So I would always say nutrition, omega-3 and magnesium are two that I'm always getting myself involved with. Folate. In terms of herbs, Agnes castus, regulation. I remember there's a story with Agnes castus about how powerful it is. Kind of when I first started studying herbalism, I wasn't the best at accurately taking the right dosage of stuff. And so with cinnamon and Agnes castus, I decided I'll just put in a cap, just down it. And it got to the point where my periods were almost so non-existent
Wow.
that I was like, yeah, I drank that much that I was like, what's going on? Like, what have I done? And so I then had to, because literally I would put it in the bottles they come in, put in the cap, and then it was a bit of, so I learned the importance of dosage because I ended up taking myself in the wrong direction because of how much. So I always say that Agnes castus is one that I really like in terms of hormone regulation. But nutrition, it's most of the people that are struggling to conceive. But you know, I was saying that how in African traditions, it isn't like we give you herbs and medicine when you're well, right? Most of the people who are unable to conceive, they're struggling with stress, ashwagandha, but ashwagandha doesn't work for all people. So you could choose other adaptogens. They've got the stress. They're not going to the toilet. Their liver, they've never seen a bitter thing in their whole entire life. Their liver is like, what is going on? Get some dandelion root, make yourself a dandelion drink. If you can't stand it, just make it and then down it, or just add a bit of the leaf bitterness into your diet. Make that something that you want to do, just to get your liver and say, liver, thank you. The sweetness, that's because gut bacteria is very important, and so try not to feed a gourmet meal to your bad bacteria all the time. So these are the things that I think about when they do that. It makes a big difference when you just deal with the stress and eat good and make sure that you go poo and look back at your poo. By the three-quarters of the issues, before I now go to some shop and buy a load of supplements or go and buy these big herbs, eat well and try not to get too stressed. And if somebody's stressing you, telling them to go about their business because I'm trying to grow a baby here, I don't have time for your rubbish. Do those things for yourself. I think once you start there, they will notice a significant amount of change. Mhm.
So I go through periods where I swallow the seeds of papaya seeds, and
Oh, this is
and
gonna be interesting.
no, it might not be. But so what papaya seeds do? It's a parasitic, so it acts as a magnet and pulls parasites, and it just draws them out, and then it cleanses them out of your body. But it was really interesting. So when I would poop, I would kind of look back in, and there was all these seeds, like these kind of pearly seeds around. At first it threw me off. What on earth is it? Oh, it's a papaya seed. And like literally, but slightly bigger. It was grossly fascinating to look at, because it's just literally just like speckled around the poop. But like amazing to see, like, and also these kind of things, it helps you to test your transit time. Things like eating beetroot, or you would see how quick foods travel down your gut, whether you have
Yeah.
a really slow gut system or a quick metabolism.
No.
So like if I have it tonight, I will see it tomorrow morning, and your gut should be working quite quickly, sort of like what, a 12-hour window or something,
Yeah.
transit time. But it was just so fascinating to see this, like, wow. And it didn't smell. It didn't smell. Obviously, it's to do what you're eating as well, but it's
You got a
just so
great diet.
fascinating. No, not always great, but it is so fascinating. Even when you mentioned earlier, when you said about the vegan diet and your poop doesn't have to smell, there's times when I'm really on my greens and it's just nothing, no foul odor, nothing. You're like, wow,
I
like the
didn't know
body.
it wasn't supposed to smell until I went vegan, and I feel like it did something to my nose because even to this day, I can smell someone's diet after they've gone to the bathroom. I have smelt some stuff. It was like I almost want to go run after the person and be like, please have some vegetables. Because literally, I've almost got killed in there. But I always, usually for me, the first sign something is wrong, I will look back at my poo. And if I see something floating or like the ghost ones and the Bristol stool chart and what
Mhm.
is on there, that's like the
Mhm.
first thing about, okay, a jelly, this one there. Like sometimes I go every day, but when I would go, you could tell that there's part of its pellets, is going to do too much details, but and part of it's not,
Mm.
which means there was some point during the day where I wasn't drinking enough water whilst the bowel.
Mm.
And so I, literally, my poo's telling me a story of what my day was like the day before. So I'm like, okay,
Literally.
I need
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
a bit more. And that's where your clearance happens. If your clearance is not happening, how are you clearing out your hormones? If you are not pooing, where's your hormone? And the thing is that I think people don't understand also is that if you don't have good nutrition, you're not going to be able to complete the phases of detoxification. And sometimes what we recirculate after the first phase is more dangerous than what went in the first place. So sometimes what you want to do is that's why nutrition is so important. Like, when they say 5 fruit and veg a day, I'm like, you need to at least double or triple that. What is 5? And usually it's like 5 apples. They're like, what is 5 fruit and veg a day? Like, I think they changed it to even 7 now, but that's nothing. That's like 5 fruit and veg in the morning. And then the rest of the day you have a bit more. But so nutrition is so important. You can do so much in your body. The one thing I also like in African tradition is if you give the body what it needs, it will fight for you. The body is so resilient. If you give the body what it needs, if you give the body the right food. So in Ghana, this idea of opening your mouth to eat, even the act of eating on the street, because I remember I used to do this here. My dad used to get upset. My mom too. The act of eating and walking on the street is seen as very bush behavior.
Mm.
You're going to eat, you're going to sit down and you're going to eat. But so in Ghana, you will sit down and have meals, which means you're not having snacks throughout the whole plate. Literally, most of us are eating from morning to evening. There's every 2 hours or every hour, we're eating something, and that's affecting our time because our gut needs time to also clear out and prepare itself and you take things in and so on. And we're not even giving it that time. So back home, you don't eat every 2 seconds. You have your nutrition, you in a nice special meal, and then you're able to eat it, get what you need, and your body's going to help you when you give your body that nutrition and you give it every day. Sometimes you don't know what sickness is coming. I realize how much our body protects itself when you deal with people who have an autoimmune disease where their immune system has to be shut down. Then you know what your body protects you from because literally they will always be catching stuff. So when you give your body what it needs, it will always help you. So if you don't even know what's going on and you don't know where to even start with what you put in the body. Give the body what it needs and also give yourself some force, rest and digest. So if you have to sing to activate that vagus nerve or you dance, another thing, dancing, like if someone's adults, you're in your room, and just dance like that alone, just the dancing to your favorite tune from when you were like 10 years old puts you in a zone that will also help. So sometimes you have to force it in a way by saying, look, I'm going to do some dance time. I'm going to play my tunes. Even though I can't dance, I'm going to do it. Even though I can't sing, I'm going to sing along to my favorite songs just to give your body what it needs. So even in that 1 hour that you're going to do it, if the whole week you're not going to give, but you give that 1 hour is going to do something.
Wow. You just mentioned the traditions and back home in Ghana. So, are there any customs, traditional customs that women in Ghana use to nourish and support themselves through matrescence?
So there's two things I want to bring up, and that is I think sometimes in the West we underplay what exactly this woman has done when they, for example, give birth and they're breastfeeding. It is a huge thing. So one thing that I really love in African traditions is during the last month. So back in the day, what used to happen is even if you're married, during the last couple of months of your pregnancy, you'll go back to your mum's house and she will pamper you all the way until the child is a few months here. So in my case, my grandma stayed till I was like 15. So they will come, they will help you cook, they will help you clean, they will help when the baby comes, help take the baby for a while. Do you know how much help that is when babies need help like every 3, 4 hours? So you don't get a full night's sleep, and that's also affecting you. Then you've got somebody that's literally there to help you do all of those things. When you go through the stress of you're now coming up to your pregnancy, your mum will be there to hold you and do this and help you out. I absolutely love that and think we just need to 100% bring that because we need help. We need assistance. People are after a few months, they have to go back to work. They're leaving their child somewhere and so on. And the other thing is about the nutrition that we believe the importance of breast milk and how valuable breast milk is. So if, for example, you run out of breast milk and you're giving yourself the herbs, so it's not quite working. If somebody else is nursing, they'll give you the child, that they will nurse the child for you. And I think that's a beautiful thing as well. But also what we tend to do, we do like massages because we believe in like when you've given birth, there'll be a little bit might be stuck still in you. So we want to get things moving. And so sometimes we will help massage you. You might get a little bit like a hot towel, just help massage you. And so to kind of get the body, you might end up sitting on a pot to kind of help clear the uterus and get the, out. And then the thing is, just imagine your mom and sometimes your aunties and your siblings will be there all helping. So you've got all these people around you, literally pampering you for the child's first few months of life. Back in the day, your mom could be with you for like a year. The child will be walking by the time your mom now goes about her business. That is invaluable. And as well as your diet. So we get lots of warming soups. You might add some alligator pepper. You might add some, what's the grains of Salem to your soups and stuff. So you get these really, I was talking about like the stagnancy and wanted to make sure the body clears well. So there's a lot of like warming foods that we will give you, lots of warming soups that will give you to help you just kind of clear. But I think the main thing you have to recognize is the help the community gives. So having going through that of having given birth to a whole human being, the trauma, not even trauma, but the pain, the difficulty, and then you've got to feed it, then look after the house. And so sometimes even when you give birth, it might not necessarily be looking after the baby. They might leave you to look after the baby, but all your house chores will be done. All your washing will be done. All that the house will be cleaned. All the food will be cooked. And then all you have to do is focus on your baby if that's what you want. If you want to be able to sleep, then somebody will take the child for you to go and have a sleep. So it becomes more of a pleasant experience. And I think that's just when they say it takes a village to raise a child, we really, really believe that. So even for me, like I talk about my grandma a lot because she was one of the big people that raised us. She was like the community babysitter. Even the person that pierced my sister's ears, I was the only one out of all my siblings that didn't get their ears pierced by my grandma. She did everything. And so I even got cousins that I would laugh at and tease a little bit. It's like, oh yeah, my grandma used to bath you. She saw your butt and all that kind of stuff. Because she used to do the traditional baths for the babies where they kind of stretch them and kind of get them and do the traditional baths across their legs. And so I've got all the pictures of my little brother across my grandma's legs getting the traditional bath done. So they will do that for them. So the mum just needs to focus on recovery and healing and enjoying the beautiful experience of bringing life into the world.
Oh, I love that. And especially those like baby massages as well. I remember seeing my mum do it for my sister's children and like the rough stretches that would just be considered, oh my gosh, over here,
Oh my
but
God, yeah.
this this is how you develop such like strong, resilient babies. The spine is well engaged. You're not having all this tension in the neck and all this colic and digestive discomfort that babies have. A lot of it comes from tension from the
Yeah.
spine, recurrent C-sections where there's pressure points throughout the spine that when you're coming down the vaginal canal get activated, for lack of a better word. And when you have a C-section, that doesn't really happen. So it's common to then see all these tensions, and sometimes parents don't really understand. They can't really put two and two together. It's just especially when they've elected to have it. It's more like just electing to have a C-section when there's no real medical reason, but they don't see the ramifications and the long-term effects, what that actually does to the baby. So it's
Yeah.
interesting, like the power of massage and touch. I love those traditional ways.
And they sleep like wonders afterwards. They go to the sleep. You got that little baby smile that they have, like, and they call like, oh. At first they're crying, but then after a while, it's just like they're just there sleeping because it just feels so good. Like who
Absolutely.
doesn't like massages? Even as adults, we like massages.
Of course. Really, really important. Um, in terms of herbs, what's the worst encounter you've had with a herb, but it was a teachable moment in how to respect it?
I think when I overdosed on the cinnamon and the Agnes castus, and then my periods was looking out at that point, I was like, what is it? So there was, yeah, then I realized how powerful they were, and I realized the importance of dosages. So now I would measure it and label it and all that kind of stuff. Because this was like my first couple of years in uni. I was like, oh, really? Cinnamon? I used cinnamon all the time. And then I think also one thing I learned is the advent of these supplements. So I tend to get invited to sell like supplements and stuff. But what I like to do is I take them myself. I'm a bit of a guinea pig like that. And I remember I got given these ashwagandha supplements and it's got all the text. And I was like, before I go and sell them, let me take them. My period, the following 2 months, were absolutely horrendous. I was like, so I had to sit there and I had to think. At first, when it first happened, I was like, okay, this must be a blip. Okay, maybe because of my diet this month, it was it. Then when it happened again, I was like, something's wrong. What have I done differently? And I tried to calculate back. Within 1 month of stopping those supplements, my periods were back to normal. This was ashwagandha. And it according to the list, it was like top grade ashwagandha and stuff like that. So when I have it in its raw form, like when you go to buy it from the suppliers and you take it, like I'll have it in like some kind of hot drink, I'm fine. When I took those supplements, I have never in my mind I was like, wait, is this what endometriosis feels like? It was horrible. I felt like my insides were on fire. It was absolutely horrendous. And I thought to myself, what have I,
Wow.
it was such a stark difference. I was like, I've done something. What have I done? What have I changed? What have I done differently? And the only thing that I'd done was start taking these supplements and start testing these supplements. And the moment I read them, like for a month, my next period was fine. So
Was it the
people really
quality?
quality, or maybe I think one of the things with herbs is also you have to understand your body. So a herb that might work for somebody in a particular form might not work for you. So even some of like Siberian ginsings as well, for some of us, like it's just too where we are mentally, it will take us over the top. So it might work for some people, it might not work for you. So I don't know. I definitely think quality was to do with it, but I also think the form. I don't think it was ashwagandha in the way that I know it as ashwagandha. My periods were, it was, I have no idea what it was doing or how it did, but I'll never do it again. Those things went in the bin, straight up.
Wow.
So respect the plant in its true form, but when you start trying to manipulate it, and then basically what I got is the ashwagandha version of this blend. I think that's what I took. I got like some Franken ashwagandha. And a lot of people are buying it, because this is social media and the advent of all these shops online and what they're selling you and these brands. The white label is a big thing. So I prefer the herbs in their true form. So I prefer to get the herbs in, and then if I have to make a capsule, make the capsule myself, or take it in terms of food or as a tea or Tinctures, I'm a little bit like this. Tinctures are good, but I don't like alcohol.
Mm.
So yeah, if I have to have the whole plant, I'd rather eat it, even if it's the. I'll find a way.
Yeah, yeah. No, you mentioned something I didn't quite catch it when you were talking about foods and advice for women. Did you say grain of Salem? I don't know if I
Yeah, grains of
grain
Salem.
of
It's
grains of Salem. Okay.
yeah. It's like a. I don't know how to describe it. It's like a long pod. I could actually bring it. I've got it here. Let me get it.
Mhm.
So I've got two. So this.
Mm.
These are very warming herbs. And then I don't know if I could show it. Like this will be the alligator pepper. It's kind of like
Mhm.
it's not like pepper. You could chew it. It's not like
Yeah,
saying like a
alligator pepper now. Okay.
yeah, very perfume. I feel like you could put that in a perfume and it'll smell nice. And then you've got grains of Salem has this
Oh, I see. Wow.
little spice cabinet.
Nice. Okay, and thank you for showing us that. And so kind of drawing towards the end, because we could talk, I think we can talk for hours, it seems like. How do you manage the business side of herbalism?
So I'm still quite new to the business side of it because I think of 2 years. But there's a couple of things that I've learned. Number one, that when I first started, I didn't know that I was going to go down the African herbalism route because I'd studied Western herbalism. But because I'd studied so much about my culture and heritage and found that a lot of the answers to my health problems that I had were also contained within the basically the herbalism, it started to make sense because I was able to look at the science that Western herbalism had taught me, and then apply it to what I learned as a cultural researcher. I then started diverting in that way because it helped me personally so much. So that's when that came in. And also to be true to yourself. Another thing that I find different in African herbalism is the character of the herbalist is very important. And I think when I finally qualified as a herbalist, it shone a light into my own character and what I was as a person.
Mm,
And when you're a herbalist, and what I've experienced as somebody who does specifically African herbalism is that I think for some people, African herbalism is the shiny new toy. And so they want to jump on that bandwagon and sometimes will offer you something to jump on that bandwagon. And so for me, as a business, not even just as a businesswoman, but as a herbalist who has a responsibility, my grandma will always say, because sometimes I keep grudges as well. She's like, as a herbalist, it will affect your medicine. If you keep doing this, it will affect your medicine. Look at your character, affect your medicine. I'm not necessarily focusing on the money aspect. I'm focusing on if I want this to work, I need to focus on my character.
mm,
I need to
mhm,
focus on what I'm really about. I need to keep the community in mind because even the herbal sector is starting to change to become that shiny new thing that people are just jumping on, like those supplements that I was taking that ended up sending me somewhere else. So in terms of managing it, I'm more managing who I am as a person because if I manage that, I will bring people to me. My medicine will work and I will bring the knowledge into the world that I feel like is important to bring. So whereas people are focusing, okay, you need to get a mailing list or you need to get an accountant, I think I'm just focusing on Naa Adjeley, be true to yourself. Are you being who you're supposed to be? Are you living? There's one thing to go to tell people to do one, two, three, four, and then I'm not doing the same thing. So are you living it? And that's where I am in terms of the business. So all of the things that I've been doing so far is just me being like true to myself and saying, I'm really upset about this. So I'm going to do a talk on this. I really don't like how people are talking about my culture. So I'm going to do a talk on this. And that's kind of leading to those kind of invitations. But then I've also got invitations for people that don't necessarily have the right mindset. The other thing is when you build that character, it will also tell you when someone's approaching you is like, no, this is not right for you. Your intuition,
mm,
or this medicine is good for you. Don't take this, don't take that, don't take this much. Because I find that I need like a lot less doses than what is traditionally or might be recommended. But to know that you have to, the business of a herbalist starts with the character of the herbalist.
mm, mm. That is really, really important, actually. And thank you for mentioning that because Especially herbs, they carry energy. Plants have energy, they have their own personality. There are certain herbs that will also not really work well with us, maybe just by virtue of just how we're used to working. It just may not. And there are certain herbs that we just, it's our favorite, it's our go to. It's just easy to work with. If you don't know what to use, you just know this herb will show up for you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think what you said about just the type of person that you are, it will show through your work. How can it not? I remember when I was younger, my mum's a nurse, so when she would come home, if she was really tired and she would cook food, I could tell whether she wasn't really in a mood because you could taste it through the food. It just wasn't as lively. And you can tell when she was in the spirit of cooking. And it's the same thing with medicine. So when I'm about to make a remedy or make a mix or mix some herbs together in a bowl, I'm always thinking like, is my mind clear? Is this the best time to be doing it? Is this ideal right now? Because if I've got things clogged in my mind, it's going to transfer into what I'm making. This is what I'm using my hands and my energy to do. So right now, if I've got negative energy swarming around in my mind, that will transfer across into the medicine. So I think
Mhm.
it is really important for us as herbalists, those who are also listening, or just keen, avid medicine makers, those who are into alchemy, what you are, your conversation, your spirit as a person, your values, your belief system, it will transfer across into medicine. We can make the same remedy, but it has a different effect on the client. Why is
Exactly.
that? It's the same herbs. It's all about intention. Your intention that you transfer into that medicine might be different from my intention. And the expectation is different. So we also transfer that across and we can almost direct the medicine to do what we want it to do. It's powerful stuff what we're dealing with. I think it's really important to note that it's not just throwing some liquids together if you're making a
Yeah.
tincture or throwing some herbs together and like, oh, that's a medicine. Like, no, it's about the energy that comes behind it
Yeah.
as well.
Yes. The intention and also sometimes like everybody, I think that everybody has their spiritual skills, for example. So I've had things where I'll dream it, but that's also affected by what my diet's like. So if I have a really rubbish diet, I ain't dreaming nothing. I can't think nothing. I can't clarify like that intention. I can't even focus to even bring that intention. So all of that plays a role.
Mm,
Really should be a module when we're studying herbalism, how to build your character or something along those lines. Because
yeah,
that's what,
absolutely.
yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then the last question I have for you is, how do you maintain a healthy lifestyle as a herbalist?
The character. Because the thing is as well, like there's the element of you want to maintain a healthy lifestyle because you want to be healthy. But also the other reason why I want to do it is because again, my spiritual gifts that I can't like literally can't do. And you could test it, nothing will happen. I won't get the answers. I'll feel like rubbish. I won't be able to do my work. I won't be able to get the inspiration. So there's the health element of it, and there is that. So when your reason is big enough, it will help you. That's not to say I haven't had my moments when life is life in, and that piece of gluten comes out of nowhere, or that piece of chocolate comes out of nowhere. But I will go back because I know what it then feels like to not have that extra guidance or advice. So, and also I want to be 70s running up and down mountains. So yeah, I feel like when you want to live a healthy lifestyle, you have to have a good enough reason, a real good reason. And I know for me, being unwell, being in hospital, I know what it's like to be sick. And when you have things like fibroids and endometriosis, if you have a month of do being reckless, you will feel it when that period comes. And then you will be reminded why it's important. So I have a big enough reason. But yeah, still I could be stubborn. So sometimes
I think we all can
things
be,
things
right?
crazy,
Because,
crazy.
yeah.
Actually, yeah, it's really bad. I live like a few minutes away from a supermarket, so I was like, oh, craving this. But the funniest thing is when I do have those moments, like if I have a bit of like Burberry's vulgaris, I have something bitter on my mouth and clear,
Mm.
so
Oh,
you don't feel
wow.
it. Yeah, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
it's tactics. One, I feel like you have to have a big enough reason to be healthy, and it's not simply to
Mm.
be. When you think of yourself in your 70s, do you want to be that woman, that can't get up? Or do you want to be the one that's walking, being very independent, still traveling the world? Because me, I'm not far from like 70. So I just think about that, but also the gifts that are very important to me, being able to see things and hear things and understand things and get that creativity. That's really important. And when I don't have it, I don't feel good. Even for those that are not herbalists, to look at their own traditions and cultures and try to go as far back as they can in their own family line to learn about the herbs and the medicines and also family recipes, because we're losing all of that now. And I think like we'll almost get to the generation that are currently in their 80s and 90s might have been the last generation to fully see it. So I would always say like just start recording. Herbalism is the recipes. So start learning to cook your own foods, start exploring the plants that are outside and the different kinds of fruits and vegetables. And if you see a new fruit in the market, just try it and see. You can go online and just learn and just immerse yourself in the beauty of Mother Nature.
Oh, it's been lovely talking to you. I think this is my longest conversation yet.
Really?
on the
I didn't need to keep you here that long.
No, it's been wonderful. I've enjoyed every minute of it. And thank you so much for just sharing the wisdom and the customs as well. I love all of that kind of stuff. My grandmother had 13 children, all survived childbirth. And it's amazing to compare that to what's going on now. You just think that was only 2 generations ago. This wasn't like
You know what I mean?
200 years ago. She's still alive. So,
Lucky. And I bet you
yeah.
her recovery period was much better as well.
Much better, much quicker. Beautiful talking to you. Where can people find you?
I'm on most socials, so you can find me under Chofanye on TSOFANYE, and that's on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. And then you could use Instagram to sign up to my mailing list where I kind of break down some of these traditions and the medicinal value of them and other various amazing bits and pieces.
Oh,
Thank you for inviting me. Take care of yourself.
you too.
All right. Bye.
I appreciate you for listening or watching. If you'd like to get in touch or have a story you'd like to share, I'd love to hear from you. You can reach us through our website, houseofrosemary.com, or on Instagram, House of Rosemary, where we share posts on herbs, periods, and pregnancy. Take care.